G'day everyone. Just doing another video. I've sort of enjoyed doing these YouTube videos and having a chat about things on my mind and stuff like that. And another interesting thing had come up in the last few weeks, and I wanted to chat about strongman promoters and promotion and comp invites and stuff like that. And for those who don't know, I sort of retired from competing in strongman in South Australia in my early days when I turned professional. I didn't really compete in South Australia or really much in Australia. Once I got to a certain level, I sort of tried to travel as much overseas or interstate as I humanly could, because I believed I was trying to bring the next generation of guys through. The promoters who were promoting when I was younger had stepped away from the sport and moved into other aspects of their lives, and I still wanted the sport to grow here. So I stepped away and didn't really compete in South Australia, and I found it I didn't like the idea of competing in my own shows. I think that's wrong. I think if you're running a show, you solely run it. You don't jump in and compete, because I think that's just, bad. You could rig it for you to win. It just doesn't look very good as a promoter to promote your own show and compete in it. But again, some guys do that, and it's completely up to them. I just feel like it's probably not the best way to go about it. But the reason why I sort of brought this up is I stepped away from promoting shows when I retired completely from sport. I left it and passed it on to some of the other guys who sort of took over the running of Strongman in SA, just how it was passed on to me. And it was one of the parts of Strongman I enjoyed, was getting an invite to a competition. When I was weightlifting, obviously you reached a certain total. That total was set by the Australian Weightlifting Federation. If multiple of you had reached that total, then you were selected on who had the higher of the two totals, or if they were maybe picking two weightlifters in a certain class, because there was better medal chances. So there was a whole lot of contributing factors, but the big factor was that you had to hit the qualifying total. In Strongman, it's less like that. You can win certain competitions like Giants Live and stuff like that to follow through to bigger competitions like World's Strongest Man, but a lot of those things as well don't really necessarily be the only way. A lot of guys get invited from just the promoter liking your style, the way you do things, your overall presentation, not just necessarily on your results. And I kind of enjoyed that, and I kind of like that about Strongman is the best guys are always there, and then you had guys who were maybe a slight level down, or maybe hadn't had the opportunity to compete, and they had the opportunity to go to these competitions because they were selected to go. And I always like the idea of being selected to go to these competitions. I ran an event a few days ago, Medieval Fair, and it was kind of my first thing back into doing a promotional style thing that wasn't involving me. The stuff I do now, the shows, the demos, the record-breaking stuff is all stuff I do with my crew, my manager, my team, and that's all set around what I do. But this was one thing where I was asked by the people that run the fair if I could run the competition or run the event for them, run the show. It was more of a show. It wasn't really a competition. It was just a showpiece. If anyone's been to a medieval fair or medieval festival, it's a lot of fun, a lot of cosplays type stuff, a lot of Game of Thronesy type stuff. The swords and the axes are there, and the swordsmen, and all the big festival style stuff with the crystals and the archery and the Highland cows and all that type of stuff, and everyone dresses up. It's a great weekend, and I was asked to put on a show like something that fits that era. About 4 years ago, before COVID, I did my own little showpiece at Medieval Fair where I just lifted 5 McGlashan stones with the whole Braveheart face paint look, etc., etc. And I was just asked to do that for fun, and I did that one just on my own accord. But this one, I selected a group of guys who I felt like were the best ones to do this. And as a promoter, my job solely is to pick the best guys I feel for this style of competition. It was a Highlander, so it was a bit of a mix of Strongman and Highland games. None of these guys had done really much Highland work before. They were competent strongmen, competent weightlifters, competent throwers. So all the sort of attributes that fit into a Highland challenge. And, I selected these guys, would put out a massive thing about it. And, it was coming into the event, and I had an athlete contact me, and you know what? I'll say his name because he told me to. He's like, you make sure you let me, because this video was basically brought up by what he had sort of said, and his name's Frosty, Adam Frost. He sort of sent me a message, and he's like, oh, you kept that pretty quiet about medieval fair. And I said, oh, look, if you want to keep a secret, don't tell anyone. And I was like, look, it's been one of those things in the plan for a while. I selected these guys because, I thought they were a good fit. And he was like, oh, it's pretty frustrating that I wasn't selected to do the competition. And I don't really, I'm pretty annoyed that I wasn't selected. I'd like to try something different. And for a minute there, I was kind of a bit put back by it. I was kind of a bit shitty about it. I'm like, well, why do you think you deserve to do this competition? And two, I promote the show. I can invite whoever the hell I want to invite. But then I sat back for a second and thought about it and said, no, that's not the right way to go about this. It's not the right way for me to get annoyed about it. He's actually asking me a legitimate question as a promoter, which I should be smart enough and professional enough that I should answer that in a good way, because again, he's just voicing his opinion, and a very reasonable opinion and question to ask. And I'm actually Adam's coach. I'm Frosty's coach as well. So my response was plain and simple. Was, we'd been in contact, all this year about what his goals were this year, his focus this year, and his focus is on other competitions at other points. So that was one of the reasons why I didn't select you to do this competition. The guys I've selected are people with power backgrounds, throwing style backgrounds, and one of the guys was a very, very, very good stone lifter, probably the best stone lifter in the state. And they were the reasons for my selection of those things. And I said there was nothing personal against you, but I'd be a very bad coach if I'd turned around and put you in the competition with zero prep, and it's not really your ultimate goal. And I said, look, I plain and simply said out, I said, look, you basically just got fear of missing out. You got FOMO badly, and I love this guy to pieces. He's an absolute gentleman and a really good guy. And he's like, yeah, look, no dramas at all, man. I wanted to ask a question. Look, I'm a bit annoyed about it, but I'll get over it. It's just one of those things where I'd love to try something different. But as I said to him, I said, look, you hadn't prepped for it. So this isn't really what you wanted to do. This wasn't your goal for the year. You just saw it and it came up out of nowhere and you went, oh, I'd like to try that. But why risk injury? Why do this, that, and the other for something like this? And it was really one of those things that I found quite interesting as a promoter, because when I was younger, when I was being promoted or promoters would invite me to do a competition, if I was not selected for a competition, I would have never have gone out and asked why. I just would have known either I wasn't good enough or whatever. So, and it's not necessarily a bad thing that people ask. It's a good thing, because then they get the idea of what a promoter's doing it for. I feel like a promoter's job is to try and select the best people for those choices of competitions. Because there was a lot of other athletes that didn't get selected for Medieval Fair that I coach, that I work with, that I know, that I like a lot, but they just didn't suit that style of competition. Highlander isn't a static comp where you pick up stuff and put it down. You have to be athletic. And the guy who won the competition or won the show was a guy named Jake, who's 21 years old and the smallest guy in the comp, but can throw, has power, has fitness. 2 days of competition, he had the recovery while the other guys just didn't have that. Great competition, great show. Everyone did fantastically well. And I was, very, proud of all the guys. The guys who ran the whole event said how good the guys were. They gelled with each other. Their showing was so good. The crowd loved it. They bounced off each other really well. And as a promoter, that's exactly what you want to hear, that the crowd enjoyed it. The people running the event thought it was perfect. I couldn't, in my opinion, I was so happy I couldn't have picked a better crew of guys to do it. They gelled together. One of the events was a sword hold for maximum time. We should have got them to do one hand. I made them do two, and it was too light, and they were doing like 5-minute holds. And they started to play with each other and try and put each other off, and it really kept the crowd engaged. And I was so impressed by that. These few of these guys are brand newbies to this style of like strongman and like acting style, but they're very competent athletes. But they really flourished with each other, and that's the thing. These guys bounce off each other so well. So I was very happy with the way they went, and I guess in saying that, you just, as a promoter, you're trying to pick the best guys for that role and that position. It's not just because you deadlift 300 kilos means you deserve a spot at any competition, or 400 kilos or whatever. You might not suit it. You might be a dick. You've got to be able to fit into the situation. And there was a lot of other guys that I know were butthurt that they didn't get invited to this show. It wasn't a competition, it was a show. Again, there was a mini little competition with inside of it, but these guys were there to put on a show for the crowd to enjoy, and they did, and I was so proud. So I guess the reason behind this was just to sort of explain what a promoter's mindset's like, and not to take it personally as an athlete if you're not selected. Like, I was not selected for a lot of things in my career. Did I sulk and whinge about it? Probably to myself. I would have sat there and gone, well, that's bull. I should be at that competition. I'm good enough or whatever. But I was able to keep myself in check. And I'm so, like I said, impressed with the way Frosty brought this up with me, and was, again, totally respectful the way he asked the question and voiced his opinion. And again, that's why I responded the way I did. I've had other athletes just have the biggest sook about not being invited to do something, and it's really standoffish to a promoter, and it's not going to get you an invite again. You're just not going to get invited to do anything if you've got that bad attitude and you just think you're better than everybody else because you've done one thing. And I guess it's a lot of guys do big gym lifts. They do lifts in training and believe that they should get an invite to a competition because they've, bench pressed 200 kilos, or they've deadlifted 350, or they've push pressed 150 or whatever, and they think, I should be at that competition because I've done that. There's a big difference between doing a big gym lift and winning a competition or putting on a show. And again, promoters know that and see it, and they can see athletes, and they also can see how all the athletes gel together. And when it comes down to a show, more so than a comp, the way everyone gels together and the way they all work together is more important than anything else, because the crowd can read it, the crowd can see it, they pay money to see it, and they expect the best show they could possibly get. So to any athletes out there that sort of get butthurt by the situation, or they're annoyed by the situation, that they don't like, that they were overlooked, take the way Frosty did it. If you really want to find out why you weren't, contact the promoter. Go, hey, such and such, look, I've been training really hard. I feel like I'm in good shape. Is there a reason why I wasn't selected for this competition? Is there anything I can do to get myself up there? And the promoter will probably sit there going, well, that's really cool, man. Thank you so much for contacting me. Look, I didn't feel like you were ready for this show. You haven't done many competitions. Your gym lifts are great. I feel like you're really good. But if you do a few more competitions, show your worth on the platform. The promoter will probably select you in future times, and they'll go, thank you very much for looking into what I'm doing. And they'll respect you for that. It's more the guys and girls who sort of sit there and go, well, they make excuses for why they weren't selected. Oh, it's because I haven't done this, or I haven't done that, or you just pick favourites or whatever like that. And that's fine. If people want to think like that or act like that towards promoters, they're going to sit there and go, that's fine, no dramas, go do another show. There's plenty of shows to do. Go do somebody else's show. That's no dramas. The promoter's going to find another person to take the spot. So, always be careful. Always try and not burn bridges. And that goes for the promoters as well, promoting shows. Always try and be smart the way you select guys. Make sure, guys and girls, make sure you're picking the right ones for the right shows. Be respectful to the athletes. If they ask you a question, respond in kind. Don't be disrespectful. Don't just shrug it off and, take it the wrong way. There's got to be a little bit of give and take on both sides. But like I said, for athletes, don't be disheartened. Don't, go off and just get angry at the situation. Be smart. Think about it. Think about why maybe you weren't invited. Think about the things you need to get better at. Remember, a promoter's promoting a competition to make money for the person who's running the overall event. So they've got to bring the best product to the table, and maybe you're not the best product at that point in time, but it doesn't mean you won't be in the future. So yeah, look, I thought it was a bit of an interesting insight, or my insight into being a professional strongman, being invited to shows. I can remember being invited to Bundanoon for the first time after I did a few Tartan Warriors shows. Was just the biggest thrill. When I did my first pro shows, when I was invited to them, just the thrill of being told, yes, you're good enough to come and do this show, was just such an unbelievable feeling, and I loved it so much. So yeah, look, to those out there that watch this, I hope this gives you a bit of an insight into the way a promoter thinks, the way a promoter engages with athletes, and a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. The way they have to deal with sponsors, the way they have to produce a product, and how they go about it. And it's a lot more than what people think. People just think, oh, well, you can pick whoever the hell you want, whenever the hell you want. And of course, yeah, as promoters, we can pick whoever the hell we want, whenever the hell we want. But there is a lot more to it than just picking who we want and when we want that. So, look, again, like I said, I hope this gives a little bit of insight into the promotion side of Strongman, the promoter, rather than just what people see from the outside in. Most guys aren't trying to be putting other athletes down or anything like that, or don't take it personally. That's just the biggest thing. Don't take it as a personal insult. You weren't selected. Just find out why and make yourself better for next time round. And yeah, look, it's a learning curve for everyone. And the cool thing is, the better you get and the more you do these things, the more you learn. And yeah, hopefully, like I said, that gives you a bit of an insight. And looking forward to the next video. Having a chat about whatever next comes up, and hopefully giving some new viewers a bit more of an insight into strongman and strength stuff behind the scenes. All right, guys, as I leave every time, stay well, stay healthy, stay strong. We will see you all very soon. Bye.